Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Martin.
And rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, just a little while ago, we passed a memorial resolution for a gentleman that we lost this last week, in that of Colonel Van Barfoot. He is one of the namesakes for the Sitter Barfoot Care Center, Veterans Care Center here in Richmond. We lost Colonel Sitter back in 2000, Carl Sitter. But Van Barfoot, just very privileged to have come to know him as a friend over the last 20 years, first introduced to him by a mutual friend. And I'm just so thankful for the opportunities I've had over the years to fold his flag with him and sit at his kitchen table and talk with him about all manner of things. And I respect him so much. He involved himself so much in our communities. He has, because of redistricting as well as moving, he has been the constituent of, I think, a total of about 4 of us in here at different times. And in every community that he was in, he really made an enormous difference. I don't think that I can honor him any better than to read his citation, which I intend to do in just a moment. But some of you may recall some years ago when the issue of whether or not he should fly a flag or not became a big deal, and people from around the world rallied to his support. We understand the legal issues, but the emotional and the legal issues are 2 different things. During the same week, you may recall, Mr. President, that a spouse of a particular athlete decided to take some 9-iron practice with her husband over some particular indiscretions. And you imagine on the internet how many hits there might have been during that time, and he had no concept of what a hit was, but his daughter and I were explaining to him, and he marveled at the fact that there were that many millions of people around the world that would be interested in his story and appreciate the support. He's the kind of man that would sit there and say somehow he has to respond to every single one of them. He'd show me these dozens and sometimes scores of letters he would get each day in these bundles, and tell me how he's got to find time to sit down and respond in writing to each one, and he did. He responded to each one in writing. An amazing man. I said a little while ago that his life was that which movies are made of. I want you to pay attention to the citation for a gentleman who, at the time of receiving the citation, was 2nd Lieutenant in the U.S. Army, 157th Infantry, 45th Infantry Division. Citations for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of life above and beyond the call of duty on 23 May 1944 near Corona, Italy. With his platoon heavily engaged during an assault against forces well entrenched on commanding ground, 2nd Lieutenant Barfoot, then Tech Sergeant, moved off alone upon the enemy left flank, alone. He crawled to the proximity of one machine gun nest and made a direct hit on it with a hand grenade, killing 2 and wounding 3 Germans. He continued along the German defense line to another machine gun emplacement, and with his Tommy gun killed 2 and captured 3 soldiers. Members of another enemy machine gun crew then abandoned their position and gave themselves up to Sergeant Barfoot. Leaving the prisoners for his support squad to pick up, he proceeded to mop up positions in the immediate area, capturing more prisoners and bringing his total count to 17. Later that day, after he had reorganized his men and consolidated the newly captured ground, the enemy launched a fierce armored counterattack directly at his platoon positions. Securing a bazooka, Sergeant Barfoot took up an exposed position directly in front of 3 advancing Mark 6 tanks. From a distance of 75 yards, his first shot destroyed the track of the leading tank, effectively disabling it, while the other 2 changed direction toward the flank. As the crew of the disabled tank dismounted, Sergeant Barfoot killed 3 of them with his Tommy gun. He continued onward into enemy terrain and destroyed a recently abandoned German field piece with a demolition charge placed in the breach. While returning to his platoon position, Sergeant Barfoot, though greatly fatigued by his Herculean efforts, assisted 2 of his seriously wounded men 1,700 yards to a position of safety. Sergeant Barfoot's extraordinary heroism, demonstration of magnificent valor, and aggressive determination in the face of point-blank fire are a perpetual inspiration to his fellow soldiers. He certainly has been to them at that time, to us, and those of us who knew him. And, Mr. President, I appreciated him as a friend and one who served us in so many different ways beyond that day of these events. And I ask, Mr. President, that when we adjourn today, we do so in memory and in honor of Colonel Van Barfoot.
Thank you, Senator.